I'm Ashton from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media. And today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have back with us Robbie Heeger, the founder of Endowment. Robbie, welcome back to the show, and it is great to have you on again.
It's nice to be back. It's been a busy 18 months or 20 months since we first talked. It's cool to see you still kicking as well.
Likewise, and I know Endowment has grown exponentially since then, and so much has happened in crypto. Even just in the last month, it feels like a year. So it's been like a decade in crypto years. We definitely need to catch up, and I'm excited to dive into the nonprofit sector, donations, endowments, and all this kind of stuff. Let's kick off the conversation, Robbie, with just a little bit about what is Endowment focusing on, and what have you and your team been working on since we last spoke?
Yeah, so Endowment has been focused on really driving as much experimentation as possible in the charitable giving space when it comes to giving digital assets, whether those are NFTs or individual tokens or even just stable coins and fiat-backed assets that exist on the internet. And when we last spoke, we were sitting at about $2.5 million total donated on Endowment at the time, and over the last year and change, we just crossed $50 million donated total through the platform. So we've seen about 20x growth since we first spoke, which is a really amazing validation of the work that we've been doing. But it's bittersweet. We saw the opportunity as much larger, this time last year at the top of the market. And I think a lot of people did as well. It's been tough out there. And so, we continue to try and refine and build and ship great software. Earlier this fall, we shipped Endowment V2, which is really exciting. It brings more of our logic on chain. It introduces the ability for people to invest charitably donated assets into things like Ethereum or Compound or Aave. And we're really looking forward to continuing to push the technological stack that we have in order to foster more of those new kinds of giving experiences, and to remind the broader world as well as the crypto industry that there are great mechanisms for impact with this technology, and that often in times like this, those are really important use cases for us to focus on, because there is so much questioning in the broader, general public about what the value of this technology is. And so for us, we see ourselves as a really great use case of how this has real tangible impact. There are $50 million that have gone to organizations that otherwise would have not received that money. I think it's really important for us to be screaming from the rooftops the impact and the number of lives that have been touched by people's generosity in the broader crypto space. And so it feels like an important time for us right now to really be building, but to also be sharing with people and reminding people about the good that's possible with this technology, and the ways in which it sort of helps us build more sustainable, more robust, more transparent financial institutions at the same time.
Incredible, and that's great to hear. Exponential growth, and congratulations on hitting 50 million. That's a lot. Compared to the 2 million, night and day since our last conversation. And congratulations on the V2 drop as well. I want to dive into a little bit of the intricacies on why people are donating, where it's going, how it works with the cryptocurrency. Right now I feel like it's a perfect time because, not only is it around Christmas time, it's the time of giving, but it's also the year end, which a lot of people are doing their taxes or tax loss harvesting, depending on what's happened with their cryptocurrencies throughout this crazy year of 2022. I would love for you to maybe give an example of some sorts of, there's crypto traders that have done well or haven't done well, and they can donate through Endowment, and then how does that affect them, or how can they also benefit while benefiting the people that they're donating to?
For sure. volatility generally means people are trading and making money. Not everybody is trading the swings in the market, but there have been some donors who are people who have, effectively sort of seen around the corner, been able to capitalize on it. They still have gains. There are tons of NFT artists out there who might be taking in less dollars, but still are taking in quite significant dollars from NFT auctions and NFT proceeds and want to give some of that away. We've seen a lot of NFT traction. But predominantly, even with tax loss harvesting, we've been encouraging people to think about like tax loss giving. When you give an asset that's at a loss, you still get to harvest the loss, but then you can also harvest impact as well. And so, there was a lot of questions out there about like, is the downturn of the market a direct one-to-one relationship in the downturn of charitable giving? And I wouldn't quite articulate it like that. Like, people are still existing in an economic context. They're still making money. They're still losing. Obviously, people are still losing money. But there are reasons for people to give that are multifaceted and intricate, whether that's about their own motivations or connections to a nonprofit organization that they want to support, even if it's a smaller amount than what they would have given in the middle of the bull market. There are people who have other investments that are matriculating this year, and then they have crypto that they want to use to offset that taxable income, and so they give that. There are lots of different combinations of variables that lead to people to give. And it's not just a metric of like number go up, giving go up. Although like there is some correlation there. But I do think, what we're seeing is a lot of people who have been interacting normally on the blockchain, who have giving priorities for the end of the year and want to, take some of their crypto holdings and leverage them for good. A lot of people have been in the market well beyond this cycle. And so they're sitting on ETH that they bought at, $100 or at $200 or $300. And so the idea of, selling that and then paying the tax on it and then giving away what's left is still less preferable than giving it to a donor advised fund and having it, processed in crypto. So like, I think something that we're realizing at Endowment is that giving is a part of the culture of the United States regulatory construct, right? Like, people give year in, year out as a part of their financial planning, and they tend to give when things are up and when things are down because there's like a cultural aspect to them. This is a part of what brings them joy, about what brings them meaning and makes them feel like they're giving back to their community that's, fostering their success in some way, or played a role in their success in some way. And I think that, that helps us be a little bit more resilient during market downturns. And that also underscores the need and the proposition that we've sort of put forward that, crypto-based investors or internet native investors will want to see giving options that align with their product expectations and with their technological expectations, right? And so and that has value to them in all stages of the market cycle. And that's been really exciting to see. And we're looking forward to continue to push that technological boundary to keep speaking to those values in the broader crypto space. Like, people want to see more logic happening on chain in smart contracts. They want more composability of those smart contracts to be able to develop their own projects that fold impact into them in some way that's very easy for them to broadcast that on chain. They want to have robust developer tools in order to facilitate that building. They want to have, other types of account types at a charitable foundation, whether they want to do a charitable remainder trust or they want to do, a non-operating foundation or an endowment. that has different drawdowns and different selling schedules of the assets that get put into it. We're talking with projects across the space that feel that impact is a part of the ethos of the space, and that especially during a bear market when all of this engineering work is happening, that they want to be able to engineer in their values into their project. And so you'll see us at Endowment turn our attention towards supporting that energy rather than just, broadly educating people on the value of giving. We're still going to be doing that broad education, but it's less effective at this moment when there's fewer people who have those gains to then operationalize, right, into impact. But when there are tons of engineers who, for the first time in months, have the opportunity to kind of like put their head down and actually work on the thing that they want to work on, and they don't have this sort of like chasing the shiny object like FOMO energy, it becomes more about like a statement of what they hope to see in the world and what they build. And we at Endowment are trying to be right there alongside them to help operationalize that values expression through having robust developer tools for them to be able to like fold giving into a new DeFi protocol or into a new NFT or into a new Web3 based game, right? We see a lot of interest in the gaming space, and so for us, just being able to put our head down and build alongside the other protocols and projects that are putting their head down and build is in some ways like a relief, right? Like it obviously makes the financials of like how much you can spend in certain places, or like how you have to prepare for the next cycle. It makes those challenges harder, but in a lot of ways it lets us get back to our roots. It lets us focus on supporting the developer energy that's happening across the Ethereum landscape and beyond into broader crypto. And I think it will result in some really interesting product development for us that will hopefully launch us into that next, exponential growth opportunity, right? Like we're looking at how do we get from 50 now to 500 or even to $1 billion. And, if we were to talk again in another 20 months, and we were at $500 million, that would be incredible, right?
Definitely.
And we see the need for us to have high leverage tools that enable more than just our engineering team to start driving capital into impact, right? And so we really look at this challenge as like we've done some incredible proof of concepts inside of the 2020-2021 bull market. And now as we look towards the future, we had all these partnerships and integrations and work and sort of expansion that we wanted to do. And there was too much noise in order to do it. And now with the market kind of cooling off and sort of the people who are really values aligned sticking around, and some of the chaff that was like, here to exploit the space has kind of fallen away to the side, there's like a reinvigorated sense of purpose for us at Endowment, and I think there's new opportunity in this sort of builder-centric environment that tends to emerge during bear markets.
All great points, Robbie, and I completely agree. And I look at the sort of analogy of like a blockchain protocol. You need to have those developer tools and an ecosystem that fosters growth. Otherwise, there's not going to be any dApps and there's not going to be any users if there's no applications to actually be used like on the network, right? Absolutely.
I think for me, and I think also for you, this might be your third cycle. This is my third cycle in the crypto space, and this is generally what it feels like. It feels like you spend years working on something that everybody kind of feels like, oh, I don't really get that, or it feels too technically complicated, and then something happens and this hype wave starts, and you're like, oh, finally, everybody's getting it. Everybody's going to come in and enjoy it. And at some point it extends itself. It flies too close to the sun. And what happens is like this healthy correction back down. But the byproduct is that now you have maybe about, a couple orders of magnitude more developers working in the space who have been, like, to borrow Kevin Iwaki's term here, have been green pilled into endowment, right? And like, and once you get those people who are builders into the space, and the market cools off, you start to create less time pressure, right? Less FOMO energy in the sort of partnership space, and you get to come back to your core mission and make sure that you're doing its service and building for the next wave that is coming, right? Like, there's very little doubt in my mind and in my colleagues' minds and and people who are building in this space that there's something here, right? Like, and I think it's very easy in these moments of like extreme dread, like on the same day where we see like pictures of Sam Bankman-Fried doing a perp walk, right? Like it's very easy to be like, oh man, this is not it, like this is the end. This is where it all goes kaput, this is where it goes to zero. It's very easy mentally for your mind to lock into that space. And one of the great things about working at Endowment, and just like the clarity of our mission and the clear need for our services, is that when the market's at its lowest, our mission is just as strong as when the market's at our highest. And I think that underscores the importance of being a mission-driven company in this space, because there's going to be so many ups and downs, right? Like, if you're an entrepreneur in this space and you're just riding the current wave and there's no underlying mission driving what you're doing, when that air comes out of the balloon, like it has over the last 12 months, you're going to be left wondering what you're doing and why you're doing it.
For sure.
And at Endowment, the experience that we're having is quite opposite. Like, I often tell friends or my parents that, like, the experience at work is totally different than the experience of the chart. Right? Like we have so much work to do, and it almost feels like there's like when the market finally cools off, it's like, okay, clock starts now. Like, here's where you really get yourself ready for the next time that uncontrollable wave comes back. And the question will be like, is your technology ready? Is your community robust? Are you ready to support that next wave? Do you have clear branding and clear marketing and clear partnerships guidelines, so that your mission can be adopted by the next order of magnitude of expansion of this community? And so we're really focused on that, and are fortunate to have the runway and the team to be able to achieve on that. And I think our mission is showing itself to be really resilient, and that makes me feel good about the choices that we've made, early on in our existence, but also, even through the bull market and now till today. It's so important to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And for us to know that we're here to manage and encourage charitable giving of digital assets, and on the technology side, that we're here to provide regulatorily compliant, tax exempt wealth management primitives and planned giving primitives, right? That, like, those two missions are important to the future of crypto, regardless of where they are in the hype cycle. And so for us, we're going to keep marching towards those. And in the meantime, like, it remains really cool to see us hit these milestones like this, right? And I think it speaks to the strength of the mission that, like, even in a bear market, we're still seeing people who are like, oh, I'm aligned with that, like, I want to participate in that activity. I want to be a part of that, what and why that Endowment's doing, and so I'm going to give in order to do that. And so, there's sort of like, you got to keep your irons in multiple fires and be willing to kind of like shape where you are in the hype cycle to the work that you need to do as a project in the space. And so, that's kind of what our focus has been, and it's aligning with the focus of people who have dedicated their life to this space, right? There are tons of people, yourself included, who have said, this is where I want to put my energy. This is where I want to put my time and my professional output. And I think, everybody is having to sort of recalibrate and check in with themselves about, do you know what you're doing here, and do you know why you're here doing it? And I think, for us at Endowment, that's always been at the core of what we've done, and it's enabled us to sort of retain our team, to retain our investors, or to retain the long-term point of view when it comes to the technology development side, and to retain our donors and to engage with our community on the nonprofit side.
Amazing, Robbie, and I love that your team is actually, heads down, and I feel like that's what the bear market is for building. And you're right about making sure that the technology is just ready for when that next wave comes. Does it have the scalability? Do you have the developer tools ready? And I feel like there's a little bit of time still before that next cycle that happens, that there's going to be a little bit more building going on.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody who's building a product in the crypto space who looks at the last bull market and says, oh man, we did everything perfectly, we did everything right, we had every product that we wanted out there and ready to go. Most people were like scrambling, right, to like increase their functionality, to integrate with this protocol that was blowing up, to integrate with that protocol that was blowing up, and there were all these lessons hidden inside of it, right? Like, oh, it would be helpful if our technology supported this, or it would be helpful if we had, the compliance status to be able to support this kind of financial activity, in addition to the tax exempt giving that we already, support, right? So there are all these learnings that happen in the frenzy of the bull market, and you don't really have, building software takes time, right? Like building community takes time, and you don't really have the time in the bull market. There's just chaos everywhere, and it feels like everything's happening at a million miles an hour, and there's a new celebrity over here and a different one over there, and it's like, you'll hear a lot of people talk about how like a bear market is actually calming and sort of validating, or sort of like it encourages them to recommit to the core values, because otherwise, you go to these conferences or you're interacting with candidates, and if you don't have those core values locked in, you're not attracting the talent, you're not attracting the interest, right? And so for us, it's been this moment of like, anything that happens on like the sort of KPI around getting dollars in the door is cherry on the top, right? There's so many forces out of our control that is dictating, the dollars that are coming in the door, really for every crypto project, right? Like whether that's the collapse of FTX, or the Terra Luna implosion, or the foreboding nature of regulatory oversight, or the ongoing debate about the environmental impact of blockchain technology, right? Like there are all these things that you can't really do anything about, and so you have to kind of let go of the underlying, like, okay, how big is the market? How many dollars are we taking in? And you have to attach yourself to other KPIs that signal to you that the next time that market goes through that cycle, that you're going to be well positioned and in the right place to capture that energy.
Wow. Well, I think it's perfect timing, and I'm excited to see how Endowment grows throughout 2023, and I feel like this is a perfect time for people to remind themselves, for those who have already seen Endowment and for people to learn about it right now. It's like a really good time for it. So I'm excited that we connected up at this time, Robbie, and it's great to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for the high praise. I really appreciate it. People
You're very welcome.
Check us out at endowment.org on Twitter. Just spelled out as usual, and come join us on Discord. These are the diehards who are joining us on Discord right now. So discord.gg/endowment, spelled DAO, just like under my name here.
Sounds great, Robbie, and I will leave those links in the description box below as well. Appreciate you taking the time. All the best in the upcoming year, and let's follow up in the near future.
Yeah, see you soon. Let's do it again.